Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Liz Lloyd, former sweetheart, if you will, of Nicola Sturgeon, her right-hand man, has come out and said that the SNP's Skexit plans are absolutely lunatic. She's saying that there's no such things as de facto referendums. It's a stupid idea. She spoke to Sturgeon about this at the time. They agreed that it was a bad idea and not to do it. And the fact that Humza Yousaf is now coming out and attempting to do the same thing shows out of touch how out of touch he is with reality. She, however, is very sceptical of everything to do with Humza Yousaf. She's not his biggest fan at all. Even though he was mentored by Sturgeon, her best chum, she thinks it was a mistake to have him in control. So we'll actually have a look at this as the sort of the civil war and the uprisings or whatever within the SNP rumble on, seemingly inevitably towards the breakup of the party, one can hope. And this, of course, on the eve of the Rutherglen by-election. And we'll be doing a by-election special tomorrow. So do please hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. You don't want to miss it. We'll give one last attack on all the parties, and we'll then sit back, grab the popcorn, watch the results as they come in. And about 1 o'clock Friday morning, maybe half one, however long it takes, hopefully, I'll stay up, I'll do a special video then, and I'll be like ready to go, bang, and I'll be out almost immediately. So you can either stay up and watch it, or you're more likely you'll wake up in the morning, go straight to the channel, and say, what's he got to say about that? Hit the button and see what we know. Anyway, that's enough for the future. Let's have a look at it now. And Liz Lloyd. Here goes. So, Nicola Sturgeon's former right-hand man questions SNP's Skexit plans in new failure for Humza Yousaf, a man steeped well in the knowledge of failure. He's failed and failed and failed again. And yet, he still plods on. It's amazing, isn't it? Liz Lloyd served as the former First Minister's Chief of Staff for the majority of her time at Bute House, but has come out against her de facto referendum plans. She was also sceptical of Humza Yousaf's first few months in charge. And she actually looks like she was carved out of something cold and hard, doesn't she? You can imagine that in a nice sharp suit as a guard in Dachau, I think. She's a cold woman. You'd be hard-pressed to love it. You couldn't love it if you breastfed it. Anyway, Nicola Sturgeon's former right-hand woman, Liz Lloyd, has criticised her old boss's Skexit de facto referendum idea, while also pouring scorn on Humza Yousaf's current plan. The ex-chief advisor instead backed building up support for independence rather than forcing a vote. Well, they've been trying that for 40 years, and it's for 100 years, really, isn't it? And it still hasn't worked because ultimately people aren't stupid. Well, obviously some are. They keep voting for the SNP. But most people aren't stupid. And they know how bad and damaging it would be. And that is the big problem that the SNP have. They're trying to bring in a policy that only the mad and the stupid would actually vote for. It's never going to work, isn't it? Anyway, she also claimed that a Labour government would be easier to persuade to give Scotland the powers for a second referendum rather than the Tory incumbents. Well, I think the clue's in the name. The official name of the Tory party, isn't it? It's the Conservative and Unionist Party. It's the Unionist bit that is the main sticking point. But even then, even Starmer want to split the UK, especially if Labour get a lot of seats in Scotland. You know, he'd be losing his majority possibly. He's not gonna risk losing a majority in Westminster just to appease some lunatics who aren't actually ever going to win the referendum anyway. Miss Lloyd has been a key ally of Miss Sturgeon for almost a decade and became her Chief of Staff in 2014 when she ousted Alex Salmond with false claims, apparently, allegedly, so I've heard by the rumours. Cover yourself. She remained in that position until the 2021 Holyrood election, when she moved to become the strategic advisor, which focused on longer-term projects, such as Scotland's net zero plan, Madness, and economic strategy. Oh, have they got one? I hadn't noticed. Maybe her economic strategy was to buy, big camper vans. Who knows? Maybe it was for her. Who knows? She evoked some controversy during the SNP leadership contest when it was revealed that she was helping with Mr Yousaf's campaign, despite being an advisor to the Scottish Government at the time, mixing
government work with party political work. It's a very strange mix. Choose one and quit the other. And then actually don't. Just don't choose. Just quit. Just go away. You're horrible. She then quickly revealed she was leaving her role once Miss Sturgeon went. Yeah, because she doesn't have her chum to protect her anymore. In an interview with the New Statesman, Miss Lloyd revealed that she was never a fan of her boss's de facto referendum plan and shed doubts on her successor's similar proposals. But of course it won't. It can't possibly work. There's only referendum. There's no de facto referendum. It's it's a meaningless thing. The former First Minister advocated for the breakup of the UK if the SNP won 50% plus one vote of the popular vote at the next general election. That isn't ever going to happen, is it? But this was dropped by the Nationalists following her resignation. If she couldn't win 50%, and she couldn't, there's no way Humza Yousaf is going to, especially not with the falling numbers in the party. There's also the fact, and we've hit on this before, that something like 60% of SNP voters don't want full independence. It goes to show that even those who vote SNP aren't entirely stupid either. Some are. God, some are wild-eyed lunatics. Anyway, the ex-special advisor said, "I never thought we needed to set that position out. She knows that, so I can say it." She added that the SNP needs to raise the support for it, and that it really is the only thing the SNP has control of. And that is where I think the party should be and where the bulk of the party are, she said. Independence will come in the same way devolution did. The settled will concept. It will never come because the settled will is not for independence. The settled will may be for devolution, sure, but not for independence. It will be for union. But this is not Mr. Yousaf's plan because he's mental. As he is also demanding negotiations to break up the UK if the Nats win the most seats at the general election. That means potentially with less than 40% of the overall votes. And he would try and break up the UK. It's mental. It's not going to happen. And the UK government are under no obligation, even if he did win them, because it's not a referendum. There's no legal standing, not in British law or international law. The man's on a hiding for nothing. It's the sort of thing you do. It's the sort of plan you make if you don't know what you're talking about and you are a complete buffoon. And we have both of those things in the body of Humza Yousaf. When asked about how and when independence could happen, Miss Lloyd added, "It's always dangerous to play fantasy politics." What? The SNP have been doing it for 16 years. If you assume Labour are in government at Westminster and support for independence is at 55 to 60%, a Labour government is a different proposition to a Tory government. The Tories can just turn around and say no because they care not a jot about most voters in Scotland. Well, that's a very big claim. Have you got any evidence to back that up? I mean, she's probably right, because the Tory party don't give a shit about most people, even their own supporters. Their own supporters didn't want Rishi Sunak to be Prime Minister. They didn't listen there, did they? She was also critical of the relationship between Miss Sturgeon and Peter Murrell. Aren't we all, darling? With them being jointly in charge of the SNP for almost 9 years. That little lavender marriage has suited them quite well, hasn't it? She can do her thing, he can do his, and ne'er the twain will meet. You know, you can just guarantee. I mean, I couldn't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure that that's two sets of genitals that have never been fumbling with each other, are they? Anyway, Miss Lloyd remarked in hindsight, I think even they would say it probably wasn't the best thing that they were both in power, or that maybe it could have been done differently. Well, yeah, they could have done it in such a way that they weren't arrested. That would have been a start, wouldn't it? She also urged Mr. Yousaf to be more decisive, following a poor start to his reign as First Minister, and he is still poorly seen by the majority of voters, even within his own party. He's got such a terrible rating, even with SNP supporters. They voted for him, and they're like, I don't know why we voted for him. Why did we vote for him? Everyone was telling you he's an idiot, and you only had to look at his record, so you've only got yourselves to blame. We'll have no more of it. I don't want to hear it. You chose him. You got to live with him. Unfortunately, so's everybody else. She said, there's a balance that every leader has to find. You are the decision maker, ultimately. I think Humza is very much listening to where everyone else wants to go, though perhaps he needs to be a bit more the decider. He couldn't decide whether to dress left or right in the morning. He can't decide whether he wants tea or coffee. Never mind just make the big decisions of state. My God. Anyway, she said, I've said to him, all very well being collegiate, but at some point you have to decide. You have to pick a side. And over the next few months, we have to watch and wait and see what side he picks. He couldn't pick his nose. He's got no spine. To be fair, for all her faults, at least she's actually got a spine. He hasn't. And God, she's not in charge, though. Can you imagine that looking at you? That's a face, isn't it? She's a harsh woman. I'm sure she's a lovely woman. Anyway, there we are. So I think she's probably right. She's not entirely wrong, put it that way. Terrible politics, but on this case, not entirely wrong. It's that Harry Potter behind her. Not the one with a little beard right beside her, but the one in the background with little round glasses. Could be Harry Potter, couldn't it? In the magical world in which she resides. God, can you imagine that? It's Hermione. Never mind. Stop it. Fantasising again. I shall come up. Yeah, there we go then. So when senior members or senior people in the SNP just can't get along, she just dislikes him. She dislikes Humza Yousaf. She thinks that everything he does is wrong, that everything he proposes is just the wrong proposal, ill-suited for leading. Now, she doesn't say those words, but when she talks about him not being a leader and not making the decisions, that's basically an outright criticism of his abilities. And then she's criticising the choices he's making as leader for policy. So she thinks he's choosing the wrong policies. So effectively, wrong man for the job, making the wrong decision. She thinks he's an idiot and she doesn't like it. But then you look at where she's come from. For all her faults, Sturgeon was a consummate politician. So Liz Lloyd actually had something decent to work with in terms of being able to do her job. She can't work with Humza Yousaf. Nobody can. He's too damn stupid. Anyway, long may it continue. Long may the civil war in the SNP continue. And let them all backbite and fight and scratch each other's eyes out like cats in a sack, isn't it? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope that's enjoyed it. I'm going to round off here. If you like what you see here on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. And you know who you are when I say this. Treat yourself to a bit of chocolate rather than an apple this time. And goodbye.